The TUC is claiming that thousands of young people are being exploited by employers who get them to work without being paid. More and more graduates are accepting so-called internships or extended work experience programs.
Some people are now so desperate for work experience they're even prepared to pay for it. In some cases it's costing them thousands of pounds for the privilege, as Brian Milligan reports.
Once, most graduates could simply walk into a job with a salary from day one. Now young people like Alex Try know that getting through the door of an employer often means working unpaid for several months at least. After one such experience on a national newspaper, Alex set up a website to find out how others were faring. Hundreds have written in anonymously, complaining they have to spend thousands of pounds supporting themselves when there's often no job at the end.
And that's a lot of money thrown away and a lot of enthusiasm put into a possible job, and it's just not there. I mean, technically it's not abuse, but I don't see how else you can look at it.
One of those who responded was a young woman who got a placement at a London PR agency. More than half the staff there were unpaid. They wouldn't even reimburse her travelling expenses, which amounted to £400 a month. Another, with a master's degree from Durham, found herself doing little more than booking her boss's holiday, making sure he got his lunch and picking up his dry cleaning. The TUC believes some employers are ignorant of the law.
Others really are simply ripping people off. Now, when you read about jobs like a runner in the film industry working for nothing for a year and there's no job at the end of it, that's not really an opportunity.
Now, working for free is one thing, but some people are so desperate for work experience, they're even prepared to pay for it. Recently, the auction house Christie's here advertised a 4-week internship. Admittedly, the proceeds went to charity, but the person who got it paid no less than £4,600 for the chance to work here for a month.
In a recent report, the body that advises on the issue warned employers to do better. Expenses should be reimbursed and anyone who works needs to be paid.
Well, from an employer's point of view, they simply have to ask themselves, is that employee contributing to their organisation, be it an intern or otherwise? If they are contributing to the workplace, if they are doing work for you, if they're turning up on time and contributing, then you have to pay them minimum wage.
Through its graduate talent pool website, the government advertises internships in England, nearly half of which are unpaid. In Wales, all such jobs do carry a salary. Scotland has no such scheme. The Department for Business, meanwhile, says it does take exploitation seriously and it's encouraging anyone with concerns to report them as soon as possible. Brian Milligan, BBC News.
Let's talk to Kit Friend of the Arts Group, a body which represents students studying creative subjects. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Have you benefited from work experience?
A little bit in the BBC, actually. I had some time myself back when I was there. But I have to say that was through family connections, so I was one of the lucky few who get in there.
And what have you heard from your peers? Are people working generally for a salary? Are they working for nothing? And do you know if people have paid to get work experience?
There's absolutely an expectation now that people have to pick up this work experience or internship period. I think what's really worrying for us is the extent or the length of which they're expected to take it on for. I know people personally who've been sort of witness to people paying huge amounts to take on internships. And across the board, even if you're unpaid, the amount of internships which don't even offer expenses means that you're out of pocket through giving someone a service.
So is this related to time? Because are you saying that any time spent in a work environment, whether you call it work experience or an internship, should be paid? Or are you saying that there should be a time factor? If you're there for 2 weeks, you shouldn't get paid? 4 weeks, and at what point do you think payment should become part of that equation?
There's a certain time factor in it. Work experience in itself and work experience placements are clearly legislated for, and there's really tight guidelines which say what is work experience and what's unpaid work. If you stick to those, and the arts group policy suggests that we look towards sort of 4 weeks as a maximum period that's reasonable to expect someone for.
Unpaid?
Then you can argue that it's still accessible. But beyond that, and when you start to stray into it's just unpaid work, we really need to call time there. Interestingly though, Skillset, the cultural and sector skills councils who we've been working with, have been proposing new extensions to that would augment that, make sure that you can give people the best quality placements whilst they're studying.
I can see why somebody would want to have the work experience placement for 4 weeks and would be prepared to work for nothing, because as you say, there's a real value in getting that work experience. The thing that troubles me slightly is the idea that people are paying for these work experience placements. Why would somebody pay to do it? And what sort of sums are you talking about? Because you said that you'd heard of some larger sums being
Definitely. I mean, the Christie's example of, I think, when £4,600 was the auctioned internship, is really the crest of the sort of problem. I mean, I've heard
that sounds like a charity. That was money raised
it's
for charity,
a
wasn't it?
donation, but again, you really have to question who can afford to pay that. In terms of people accessing industry, we want everyone to be able to get into a job, get into industry based on their skill, not on their ability to pay to enter it and their privileged background. Really, even if you're talking about unpaid placements, who can afford to go on them? Person from London, middle class background, they might be able to jump in straight away whilst living at home. Person from a lower income background elsewhere in the country, they're not going to be able to access the same opportunities that someone from that background will.
Do you fear that in the process of trying to get some kind of clarity on, if you like, to legislate on what you should be allowed to do, you do take away the ability of someone to just meet, you know, a possible employee and say, do you know what, come and spend some time in my company, see how you get on, I can't pay you. And they volunteer to do that. Do you know what I mean? Does it take away that some of the element of someone just trying to do something and someone else trying to help them by formalising the arrangement? They might shy away.
The reality is that whilst there's some people with good intentions there's huge amounts of people exploiting these opportunities to effectively get by not paying as much as they should to deliver a service. Interns Anonymous has got some really interesting examples of their blog. Things like legal firms not paying interns but charging their time out £100 an hour, that kind of thing. It's not a case that this is people being philanthropic and trying to help out and falling foul of some low pay legislation. This is people openly exploiting en masse young people and graduates in order to not pay as much for the service they should.
But is the competition amongst graduates so intense that really some companies can just say this is the situation and you either like it or lump it?
There are huge amounts of graduates coming out every year and more, and that's a good thing. What we need to make sure is that the competition for jobs is based on skills and ability, not on the ability to pay to get in there. Otherwise it really flies in the face of all of the progress towards equality, diversity everywhere, especially in a country with 30 years of unchanged social mobility.
Okay, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I'm sure it'll strike a chord with a lot of people. Thank you.